Good morning, everyone. I'm Sani Chendi from the Secretariat, also the SIG Chair Support. So we have the current co-chair's terms ending in this meeting, so we have to run the co-chair elections first before we go into the proposals as a first item on the agenda. So I'm going to just run through the election process, and once we've done that, then I'll hand over the microphone to the chairs. So the current co-chairs, sitting chairs, Ching Heng and Bertan Charya, their term is ending this conference here in this SIG. And we have opened the call for nominations for the co-chairs on 23rd of January, and we closed it on 23rd of February. The term is for 2 years. The co-chair responsibilities are mainly assist with the chair, assist with the SIG, be part of the mailing list, attend the conference, and more can be read on the SIG guidelines, so the URL is provided there. I hope the chairs, the nominees, have gone through it and, sorry, my phone is ringing. I've gone through it and read the responsibilities clearly. Election procedures, candidates must be present in the room. They will be given opportunity to speak, and the voting is those who are present in the room. The election is decided by the count of show of hands, and this is excluding APNIC staff and RIR staff. The count is taken by the APNIC Secretariat. I lost my slide. And the results will be announced here. Apologies for that. Yes, I'm waiting. Thank you. So whoever received a large number of votes is declared as elected as co-chair or co-chairs. So we have received 3 nominations and listed as per the order we received. The first one is Bertan Charya, he's the sitting co-chair. Second one is Sean Stewart. The third one is Ching Heng Koo. So I'd like to invite the nominees. I'll go with Bertan first. Please, if you'd like to say anything, come to the microphone here or on the floor. It's up to you. It's probably an easy one.
Is it working? Okay. Good morning, everyone. I've been nominated to succeed to myself as a policy co-chair, and I intend to keep on doing the work has been doing for the last year. So far, we've been doing quite a good job, especially with Simon leading us. So if I can get your trust and keep doing the good job we've been doing so far, I'll thank you for that.
Next one is Sean Stewart. Is he in the room? Yep, please.
Oops. Good morning. I'm Sean Stewart. I'm running for co-chair to help continue the good work that's going on in it and provide a completely neutral point of view and help shepherd policy through successfully. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The last one is Ching Heng Koo.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jin Heng Koo from TWNIC, and I'm the director of the IP department of TWNIC. And I am very glad to have this change to run the policy co-chair. I hope to continue have this change to serve IPNIC community. I hope to your support to me to be the IPNIC policy co-chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ching Heng. And good luck to all the 3 candidates. So I'll be doing the voting now and request my colleagues to take the count. Please note, and I please request the RAR staff and the APNIC staff stay away from the elections. So I'm doing the voting for Burton Charrier. Those who are in support of Burton, please raise your hand and keep it up high so we can take a count. Done? Lift it up, please. Higher. Keep it up. Keep it up. You can stand up, yes. Thanks, Gail. Got it? Okay, Adam? Yeah, thank you, Adam and George. The next one, I'm doing a vote count for Sean Stewart. Those who are in support of Sean Stewart, please raise your hand high. Thank you. And those who are in support of Ching Heng Koo, please raise your hand now. High up. Thank you. Just give us a couple of minutes while we tally the count. So, congratulations goes to Burton and Ching Heng for re-electing as co-chairs of the Policy SIG. Congratulations. I'd like to invite both of you to come and take the chairs, please. Over to you, Suman.
Thank you, Sunny, for conducting the election, and thanks, Burton and Ching Heng for being elected. And of course, many thanks to Sean Stewart for volunteering yourself for this position. And I know that earlier history that we have shortage of people to volunteer in the policy sessions. So if not this time, maybe next time, 1 year future, we'll see you. And please be in the mailing list, please join the meeting and help us in supporting the policy. Thank you again. So I now like to move to the second session and the second part of the program that of the policy meeting. We have one policy to discuss in this session, and then we have a second session. Oh, yeah, nice. Green one, okay, so bigger ones, different sizes. Okay, so agenda this morning that I'll go with a few slides. Those who are not aware of how we actually work here in the policy session, and then Adam will present some implementational update, what's happening, and we have one proposal to discuss in the morning session that Prop 123 modify 103/8 IPv4 transfer policy by Alexian. And in the second session, we'll be discussing, starting with some NRO-NC and ASOAC update by Brajesh, and then we'll go to NRO statistics report. Then we have another proposal by Tomohiro Fuzusaki. He's not here. He will present this remotely. Prop 120, final/8 pool exhaustion plan. What we'll be doing after 103/8 exhausted. And we have two things policy to discuss from the last meeting, actually, that temporary transfer and no-need policy in ethnic region, Prop 119 and Prop 118. The author, I don't know, still he is here, he didn't shown up, so we should decide what to do with these policies. So, the first session, policy administration, and here actually we are trying to develop policies and procedure which relate to the management of the IP addresses and number resources, and for the EPNIC, NIR, and ISPs in APAC region. And our main starting discussion point is the mailing list, SIG policy at epnic.net. If you're not a member yet, please join there. And we start our policy discussion from there. And if you have any comment, feedback, everything goes there. And if you know more detail about policy SIG, here is our URL. So at presently, it's me, Shumon. I'm chairing the SIG chair at this moment, and with Burton Sherrier and Ching-Heng Koo, both of them re-elected again, so for 2 years term. And there is another part in the early morning discussion we are having that NRONC and SST, and Brajesh Jain, Tamil Fusaki, and Aptaf Siddiqui, they're part of the policy discussion, and they're actually doing the other RIR as NRONC and with ICANN as SOAC. So here are the steps how we actually implement policy. First, if you have any plan to change, modify anything of the EPNIC policy, you will submit proposal to the mailing list, and then there will be discussion in the mailing list. Finally, we'll sit here in the policy meeting, we'll discuss the policy again, we'll take temperature of the room, and also we encourage remote participation by confer. And then, if we reach the consensus at the policy SIG, then it goes to the annual members meeting that is happening tomorrow. And if it is consensus there as well, then it's sent back to mailing list for the comment period. If everything is okay, then it goes for its endorsement. Then again, it's come back to editorial comment period. And finally, Secretariat implements the policy. And if it doesn't reach consensus, then it can, if it doesn't rejected, if the suggestion from modification or changes, it can go back to again mailing list, and author can propose again with the modification and the feedback from the community. So how we actually gauging consensus or making decision? So consensus means a general agreement, taking into consideration comments on the mailing list, in the open policy meeting, locally, remotely. Altogether, we come to a consensus. And it means the general agreement has to be between all the members. So there might be objections, there might be some minor objections, some problem may occur for some members or group. There might be major objection that there might be major problem to occur if you implement the policy. So we should work all together to resolve if there are any issue for someone, and we like to go with agreement with the community. So if you more detail, you can see the code of conduct, how we do this consensus process. So you always welcome remote participation. And for that, there is a system called Confer. So when we get consensus, so we considered all these things, the mailing discussion, the discussion in this open policy meeting, those who are participating remotely in this policy meeting, their feedback, show of hands, all together, actually, we gauge consensus. So those who are participating remotely, you can join at confer@epnic.net. So those who doesn't have actually, those who have actually member of EPNIC and using MyEPNIC, they can simply just log into MyEPNIC to access Confer. And if you're not an EPNIC member, but if you already registered account in Confer in EPNIC 44, you can use the same account here. If you're still not registered, you can now register to the Confer and create your account. So, but to create an account, you need a valid, accessible email address, and the link for Confer will be sent to by that email address for verification. Here are a few references that you can even see the policy development process. you can go there. There are SIG guidelines. Gone for mailing list archive. If you see the old discussion in the mailing list, and if you want to subscribe now, you can go the last link there. There is a proposal discussion in the last meeting that remote participation in the SIG chair election proposed by Izbi Okutani, and in the meeting there is strong support for remote participation in consensus process and voting for SIG chair election. But there was some desire for some degree of identity check. The proposal to make changes to facilitate remote online voting in SIG chair election to be discussed in the mailing list by the community. But somehow actually we didn't go any serious discussion there, but as long there is a huge support for this, so I think we can discuss at the end again on that we need someone to volunteer actually what should the steps, or we can ask Secretariat to come up with some kind of guidelines and we can discuss in the next meeting. And it not only in policy, it has to be discussed with the other SIGs as well. Then actually we can think of allowing remote participation in the SIG chair election. So that's from my side from SIG administration. If you don't have any comments or something, we can take it. Otherwise, we should move to the next presentation. Thank you very much. So Adam, it's up to you to present.
Thank you, Chair. Hello everyone, my name is Adam Gosling with the APNIC Secretariat. I wanted to report on the implementation updates that we've had. Normally it would be since the last meeting. I'm going to add another one in. We had a very active and full agenda last time, so I didn't report on the implementation of Prop 117, which was actually reached consensus the meeting before. So I have 4 proposals, which are now policies, to quickly report on, tell you how we went. So proposals reaching consensus at APNIC 43 was Prop 117, the return of IPv4 address management and Final 8 exhaustion. The name of this proposal is a little bit misleading because it only partially reached consensus. The community didn't reach consensus on the parts dealing with Final/8 exhaustion, and that's still a proposal to be discussed in this meeting. But it did reach agreement on what to do with recovered 103, that's the Final/8 space. And at the time, all of the recovered space was going, anything that was returned to the APNIC free pool was going into the recovered pool. That meant that it's not a great amount of space, but it meant that the Final/8 pool wasn't being replenished in any way. And so the decision was made that any recovered space that was from the 103/8 would be returned to the 103 free pool after it's been through its quality assurance and spent some time in no man's land. Anything that is returned to the Secretariat that isn't from the 103 pool, block goes back to the recovered pool. So as you know, we're maintaining 2 free pools at the moment. That was implemented on the 4th of August 2017. I'm sorry it's taken so long to report that. More recently, proposals reaching consensus at APNIC 44. Prop 116 prohibit to transfer IPv4 addresses in the Final/8 block. This proposal was changed during the meeting. Initially, the proposal was to stop any transfer of Final/8 blocks until they'd been delegated for at least 2 years. During the meeting, there was very strong support from the community to actually make that 5 years. And in fact, some people were suggesting 10 years, but the community came to a consensus on 5 years. So anyone who is holding 103, anyone who is holding 103 space has to hold it for 5 years before they can transfer it either with a market transfer or with a mergers and acquisitions transfer. If the if they no longer need the space, if they no longer need the space, they need to return it back to APNIC to be put back in the free pool. So that was implemented on the 20th of November. It was implemented in a slightly unusual way because at the time there was a moratorium on all transfers, and I'll hit that on the next slide. So it was implemented before the documentation was done, and so the documentation was finalised and the new policy published on the 20th of December, the end of last year. The reason for the moratorium was with the consensus at APNIC 44 to put this block on the transfers. The PDP process hadn't finished because it needed to go to the final comment period and needed to be endorsed by the EC. But the EC at the time felt that the status of these resources was unclear and that the safest thing to do was to stop all transfers until the policy process had concluded. So that period was from the 14th of September to the 20th of November. On the finalisation and approval and adoption of the policy, the implementation of the policy, that was automatically lifted. During that period, the Secretariat obviously didn't process any transfers. After the implementation was done, we kind of went through the list of the backlog, and anyone who was now unable to transfer was informed of that, and anything that was allowed to be transferred was processed as normal. The next two proposals are very similar, so I'll kind of try and treat them as one. Prop 121, updating initial IPv6 allocation policy, and the next one, updating subsequent IPv6 allocation policy. Both were designed to achieve the kind of similar goal, and that is to, if I put it on the slide, is to alter 9.2.2, particularly the piece at the bottom there, and I've tried to bold it, it doesn't really help, but it expands the criteria for people wanting particularly large IPv6 blocks, either in their first or subsequent allocations. And what it does basically is allow the host masters to take in a wider range of factors when considering the application. So it increases the criteria, and it's very specific about the criteria that should be used. The number of users, the extent of the organisation's infrastructure, the hierarchical and geographical structuring of the organisation, the segmentation of infrastructure for security, and the planned longevity of the allocation. This, again, was implemented at the same time, 20th of November last year. That's all I have to report, actually. If there's any questions about any of those, please let me know.
Thank you, Adam, for updating the policy have been passed in the last two meetings. And you've seen that Prop 116 passed in the last APNIC 44 meeting. And in this meeting, actually, the policies, I can see that all are hovering around that particular proposal, and especially with the /103/8 block. And our next policy discussion on new proposal, it's a new proposal submitted, Prop 123, and can I see the slides? Okay, a proposal for modifies 103/8 IP trans policy. So, and proposed by Alex Young, and I will request Alex to come and say his proposals here for discussion.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm Alex Yang. Thank you for your participation in this session. Today I made a presentation for a proposal of modified 103/A IPv4 transfer policy. So allow me to show you the detail of the proposal. Okay. So now let's come to the, Let's come to the problem statements part. It's well known that the proposal, Prop 116, have reached a consensus on the IPNIC 14.4 meeting, and according to the regulation of the policies, IPv4 ranges in the final A block, which is delegation days less than 5 years, cannot be transferred. And IPNIC have stopped the transfer of acceptance for such ranges after the policy published. And my problem is, however, some of the 103/A ranges were delegated before September 14, 2017. Those resources should not be subject to the 5-year restriction because the communities or entities was not aware of the restrictions when they received those resources, and some of the resources have been transferred or planning to transfer. If IPNIC does not allow those transfer to be registered, there will be some underground training or some underground transfer. This will call the increase for the IPNIC Swiss data. And the most important objective or the motivation for this proposal is to keep the IPNIC Swiss data correct. I'm a technical guy, and from my perspective, the data accuracy is very important for the network or service operations, especially the official data like the WHOIS data. And before and during the proposal periods, even from the memories, even from my communication with some entities, and I have made some investigation for whether there was any similar situation on other regions. I could have found the same things. So it means there's no such situation in other regions. The purpose of the policy solution is, from my opinion, the regulation that prohibits transfer IPv4 address under the final /A address block, which had not passed 5 years after its allocations or assignments, should only apply to those ranges were delegated from the IPNIC since September 14, 2017. That means should subject to the delegations after the Prop 116 published. For the advantage consideration, I think around IPNIC to register those 103/A transfers to keep the IPNIC whose data correct can decrease the undergoing transfer on a certain extent, and this will help to keep or maintain the WHOIS database correct. For the impacts on IPNIC, this change will allow the resources, resource holders are allowed to transfer 103/A ranges if the resource were delegated before September 14th last year. So let's go to the summary. Okay, we support Prop 116, which is protect the existing IPv4 blocks and keep the new delegations original in IPNIC region, but hope that the ranges delegated from the IPNIC before the September 14th, 2007 should be allowed to transfer to keep the WHOIS data correctly. So that's all for my presentation. Is there any question or comment? Thank you.
Andrew.
Thank you, Alex, for presenting. If I understand correctly, that you are mentioning that the Prop 116 that passed on September 2017. So it's prohibiting transfer for IP address block 103/8 for 5 years. But those who have got this block before that, they are not aware of the fact. So those should not be subjected to this transfer policy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you're proposing that if remains like that, that may cause some underground transfer, and that's why ethnic data will be,
Cost
Yeah,
uncorrect
right.
for the
right.
Liquid
So you're suggesting that this proposal, Proposal 6, is suggesting that we should allow the ranges delegated from Epic before 14 September 2017
Yeah.
should be allowed to transfer to keep the who is data correct, right?
Yes. That's my proposal.
Thank you, thank you. We've got a lot of feedback from the mailing list as well, but now actually I like to open the floor to the community to comment on this proposal. So floor is open, so please come to the mic and make your comment.
Owen DeLong, concerned internet citizen. Speaking strictly for myself, I would oppose this proposal, and I would oppose it because it's rather well known that internet policies are subject to change. I believe you sign a willingness to accept those changes as put forth by the community when you sign your registration services agreement. I know that's certainly the case in Erin, which is the region I'm more familiar with, but I believe that also applies in the APNIC region, if I remember the contract correctly. So I don't think the people were unaware they couldn't transfer this thing holds a lot of water. I think it's pretty clear that Prop 116 was intended to close a loophole that was never intended in the first place. I think pretty much everybody in the community understands that that was a loophole, and if anybody thought they were going to take advantage of that loophole, they knew they were trying to get away with something that wasn't the general intent of the community anyway. I would support a policy that made an exception for certain M&A transfers, because there are times when you start a business, you get it going, 2 years later you get bought by somebody, so waiting 5 years to be able to consolidate the address records of a business that's been merged doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But outside of the M&A process, I just don't see a good reason to do this. I don't buy the who is accuracy argument, because somebody who's going to violate this policy is going to violate it whether their record was issued in 2015 or 2017 or 2019. If they're willing to violate policy and transfer underground, they're willing to do that anyway. And they're going to do so at their own risk, and hopefully the RIR has a process for addressing that when it's discovered. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carter.
Yeah. To a couple of points, I agree what the speaker just said. See, when you made this proposal to say that the WHO's data will become inaccurate, and that is why I'm giving this proposal, probably would not be a right thing. It is APNIC's job to maintain the WHO's data, and let's leave it at that, right? I would have been more happy if you, in your proposal, had said that as a means of natural justice, which says that laws, rules, or regulations which have been made should not be applied by a retrospective effect, would have been a more stronger argument, which will bring up a better discussion on why 103/8 was introduced, what were the rules, and what was the understanding at that time, and why you are concerned about that. So that I suggest, probably if you reword your proposal, it would be a better bet.
Thank you.
Any more comments or feedback? Yep.
Hi, my name is Awal. I'm from Bangladesh. I'm speaking on my personal capacity. I have a question to the speaker. If the transfer is allowed, then what is the duration after getting some company, after getting the address, and then if we allow the transfer, what is the time frame up until when they cannot transfer and then they can again transfer? What is the frame? Is it just one day I get it address and then tomorrow I can transfer it? Is it like that?
Thank you for your questions.
I think I can answer your questions. Actually, it's not related to the policy because due to Prop 116, if you get a prefix now from EPNIC, you cannot transfer for 5 years.
5 years.
The policy is saying that those prefix actually people, members receive before 14 September 2017, they should be allowed for transfer. That is the proposal we're talking about.
Yeah, so that was my question. So I'm now putting my comment right now, now. So the policy Prop 116 is actually get consensus because the community wanted fair distribution of the finance/aid, right? So now if we allow this, and there can, some more complicacy can happen, transfer can happen that is not justified for the community. And if we are talking about the WHOIS data accuracy, I think, yeah, I agree with the previous comments that it's not it's EPNI's job. They will violate it anyway if we again allow them to do that. I don't support the policy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more comments on that? I don't see much discussion here.
This is for the question for the secretary. Before that September, how many 103 was assigned to the members? And after September, how many 103 assigned to the members? I think from September to here, it will be maybe maximum 80-20. So when we make that 116, we thought about the background, we thought about the future also, right? So that's why, as you are thinking about that, yes, before that, the community didn't thought about that one. No, I cannot take that one. Yes, your concern is right. 5 years may not be suitable for some countries, but countries in Asia, 5 years is suitable. And second thing is that you are talking about the WHOIS data. Yeah, WHOIS data was incorrect. We know that. And we are trying to correct it day by day.
So you have the question that the number of M&A transfer involved 103/8.
No, I want
before
assignment. How much?
Okay, I don't know that figure. I don't have, but the transfer has happened is 257.
So it should not be. It could be like 80-20%. Like 80% was already assigned before September. And another thing is that if we allow it in 2 years, some people will try to manipulate these 2 years.
No, Stefan, there is no 2 years proposal now actually. So
Before that
it was last year.
Yes.
The year actually was last year. So there is no.
So if you reduce the time, why we didn't reduce the time? Why we want 5 years? Because we do want to have a growth on IPv6. So if still the people are pushing for the IPv4, the growth of IPv6 will not happen. It didn't happen on last 22 years, and it will not happen on next 30 years also. So that's why. So that's why, from the community perspective, we are really opposing your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guang Liang Pen from EPNIC Secretary. Just trying to answer the question. How many delegations from 103 pool before the 14th of September 2017? The number is 13098.
Thank you. So someone got your answer that 13098 address block is given and transfer is among them is 257.
Simon, can I do some feedback for the last few questions? And thank you for all your questions and comments. And for the situation you just mentioned, that we all know that IPv6 is keep growing and is the big trend for the internet. But we should know that there's still some problem for the WHOIS data. But underground trend is not only one reason. But if we found that there is a reason or there is a potential risk for the WHOIS data, why don't we keep keep together to resolve the problems. That's what I think. Because IPv6 is a trend, we all support that, but we found the existing problem, we have to solve it. That's my opinion. And about the MMA, and we know that I got the data from the APNIC report. Maybe now it's 257 MMA transfer every year, right? Yes, MMA. I know that just now I hear the voice that we should include the criteria for the MMA, but MMA is sometimes very complex or not very easy to identify. So just in my opinion, I want to say that to keep the policy open and keep the policy simple for the marketing or for some operations. I stress to this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Hi, I'm Ziam Abdin from Vinsys Network. According to your proposal, if you allow this, and you say that will be benefit for the WHOIS record, and how much it will be benefit for the WHOIS records, and how much it will be benefit for the business cases? Do you have any forecast records on this?
Thank you. As the report of the APNIC, they would be more than 3,000 invalid WHOIS contact information in more than 3,000 every year. But I don't know how many benefit, how much benefit for this proposal. That's the so maybe this is a way for us to resolve the problem. Not just the single way, but this is the direction or method for us to do that. So I can answer these questions, how many or how much can benefit from this purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. If there is no any more comment, then I should move on to the consensus. This is last call. Yeah, please.
Lou from Largest Cloud Service. I think this proposal provides an opportunity for the unexpected proposal of 116 to certain community members in the past that didn't really aware that they cannot transfer in the future. And it will encourage them to update their WHOIS and make sure that the confusion from broader communities who not actively participating in the APNIC policy development process gives them a chance to fix their WHOIS data and their company merger and acquisition, everything. It might be a good idea for that from that point of view, because it's not every company in the region would closely focus on PDP as some of us in the room do. So it will provide them an additional opportunity to fix few things. Thanks.
Thank you. Any more comments? No. Thank you very much for the discussions. So I'll move to the consensus in the room as well as in the confer. So actually, I'll be asking 5 questions for us that if you support the proposal, I'll ask you to put your hand, not now, I'll ask you to put your hand. And if you then we'll go forward. If you strongly support this proposal, to show up your hand. Then I will ask for those who actually going to be neutral. You can show up your hands. Then if you object this proposal, then you have option to raise your hand. Lastly, if you strongly object this proposal, you can raise your hand. This is a sequence we'll be following for the consensus process to make it clear. Right? So my first question is, those of you actually supporting this proposal, please show up your hands. And you can see the conference screen as well, those who are trying to do it remotely. So if you strongly support this proposal, please show up your hands. Strongly support. Okay, thank you. So those who are actually neutral about this proposal. Thank you very much. You got the feedback. So if you object this proposal, please put your hand up. Okay, we got a number. Thank you very much. So those who strongly object this proposal, please put your hand up. Thank you very much. So we get the feedback in the room. We can see the feedback from the remote participations. So, and I must also mention that we have got a lot of feedback from the mailing list as well in this proposal. There was some support for this proposal and, oh, yeah.
Sorry, there was one additional opposition from the Adobe Connect in your count.
Thank you, thank you. And we have some strong opposition from the mailing list as well. And you can see the remote participant feedback. So I will discuss with my chairs.
And there were 2 additional supports from Adobe Connect.
So we get feedback from my chairs that we can say that the proposal didn't reach consensus in meeting, but of course there is some good argument for this proposal as well. So if you getting from the feedback from the community, if you want to come up with a modified proposal next time, we can send it back to mailing list. It's up to you actually. So so as it didn't reach consensus, so the proposal we are planning to send it back to mailing list. Yeah. So if author agrees, consider, can amend, and or you can abandon the proposal. It's your choice.
So let me go back to the mailing list and ask for some compliments and some improvement for the proposal.
Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you very much. So probably this is the end of the session. So we wrapped up a bit early, our agendas, but as long as we got some time, I was mentioning earlier that we'll be discussing the remote participation thing in the SIG for the 6 chair elections. So today morning we have 6 chair election. All those who present, they voted. There's no option for remote participation. Same thing happened for the other SIG elections. But in the last meeting, Epinic, Izumi Okutani actually proposed that whether we can allow remote participation in the 6 chair elections. So, and there is strong support for that in the community. But still, we don't know how to do it and how we can move forward from there. So I like to get some comments from the audience if you want to say your views or how we can move forward. Anybody want to comment on that? The mic is open. So regarding remote participation in the 6 chair election.
This is Mohammad Fat Khan from Cybernet, Pakistan. For the remote participation, would there be any anything that would say like authenticating that what person, like something like that?
Thank you. Actually, you know that there is the most challenging part for this election process. Like we know that in the ethnic East election or in this election, you can vote by my ethnic, and only members can vote. Yeah. But in the 6 sessions, community can vote. So here, the tricky part is how we can identify the remote part. And you can see the desire for some degree of identity check. And so we need to find a way out so that we can identify the right people right people are voting in the election.
So is there any suggestion that that registration or something like that?
We're asking for the suggestion actually. That's why I opened the floor that if you have any suggestions, how we can do it, or actually in the next meeting, someone can come up with a proposal as well that how we can do that, and we can discuss on that in the meeting list and finally in the meeting.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
I'm Ziam Abdi from Insys Network again. I just would like to give a small suggestion for that. For the policy meetings, we already giving the policies to the mailing list, and then only we are coming for here for the policy approval or anything. Right. Similar, if we can give those who are willing to vote, if they can send the request, then we can give an ID token or something. So while the voting for that, then we can have that recorded, and then it will be okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Owen DeLong, concerned internet citizen. It seems to me that this is basically a solved problem in that you allow people to participate through Adobe Connect in shows of hands and whatnot on policy. Why do you need any greater level of authentication for the co-chair election than you need for the shows of hands in the policy process? As long as you've got some way of knowing that it's one person voting once, I think you're probably okay. Pre-registration is certainly an easy way to, address that. There are probably others, but it doesn't seem like a particularly difficult problem to solve, and I don't think you need to worry too much about people stuffing the ballot box unless it becomes an obvious issue at some point in the future. But the reality is I would expect the instance of fraud to be relatively low.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the feedback. It is just we want to make the process transparent, and we don't want to see that the members feel that someone elected actually doesn't have enough support. So, yeah, please.
Jahangir Hussain online says any registered participant can vote either online or on site for SIG.
Can you be loud? Actually, I couldn't follow.
Jahangir Hussain online saying any registered participant can vote either online or on site for SIG.
Thank you. So that's a good suggestion, and we can take that. So, any more comments from anyone?
Hi, Luhan from Larus Cloud Service. I will support a remote participant to vote. I mean, travel to here and with hotel and everything is pretty expensive. It's not like everybody can afford it, especially we have so many developing countries in the region.
Thank you. Yeah, we have no doubt about actually that there's a last meeting we got a lot of support for this. So, but we need to find a way actually, like we need to guide the secretariat actually how they actually from the election process and what should be the things to be considered. So we need to bring it to discussion so that we can get a transparent, fair ways of allowing people to vote remotely. There is no doubt that we want to add the remote participation in the 6-year election.
I mean, if the concern was really that people grab a lot of grandmas into the room, then we can do an authentication process, like verify emails, ID, stuff like that, to make sure that we actually have a real person behind the remote voting. But I don't think that should be a reason to stop remote voting, stop people that don't have enough financial support to come to the meetings, vote for their policy chair. I think everybody in the community, which identifies every person in the region, have the rights to vote for the policy chair.
Thank you, Liu Hang. So probably we cannot find a complete solutions here, but it's open for, I think we will ask you to put your comments in the mailing list. Those are here, those are not here. We can get that, and if you find a concrete proposal, fine. Otherwise, what if we actually ask Secretary to come up with some kind of election process for remote participation, and we can discuss in the next policy SIG meeting with the other 6 chairs actually. It is not the policy SIG should decide only, but the other 6 also agree on the same principle. So we can initiate the discussion, and eventually we can come up with a proposal for remote participation if from the community, or maybe Secretariat can help to make a policy and we can discuss on that. Any comments on that? That if we... So do you want to tell anything? Oh, thank you. So...
Sorry, Sunny Chendi from Epinik. I'm not clear what you're asking us to do here.
You know that for remote participation,
Yes.
we've got some feedback from the community that there's a desire for some degree of identity check so that who is voting is already in the screen, and there are some proposals how we can actually identify, like one proposal came for that we can take the registration process. Those who register, they will vote kind of thing, online or on-site or remotely. So these are some feedbacks, and the baseline are here. So following that, we need an online system eventually that will allow people to vote, like for consensus using Confer. So can we define something based on the feedback from the community and create something so that the community can vote online remotely?
Thanks so much. So just to clarify, you want the Secretariat to come up with some options.
Right,
Okay.
right, exactly.
Thank you.
And we'll ask this again in the mailing list, so we should get some more feedback. We'll collect them, and based on that, if we make a system, and if everybody agrees, the other SIGs agrees, and the community agrees, we can add it in the election process.
Okay, thank you.
So any comment on that? So I think you will get more time for lunch today, and we should not change our agenda because we have already mentioned that the discussion topics in the second session of the policy stick. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for lively participate in the discussions. And here's the end of the first session. See you after lunch. Thank you very much. And thanks to my chairs for supporting me.